My childhood friend is a troublemaker who loves turning straight guys gay. He'd always laugh at us who preferred soft, easygoing types, calling us tasteless. He'd say natural fruits are too sweet. Nothing beats the crisp freshness of sugarcane you crack open yourself. After he converted, yet another innocent guy, I couldn't take it anymore and decided to intervene. But later, he brushed the back of my neck and grinned. Being straight doesn't really mean anything, does it? He said. Don't you think it's more exciting to win someone over? His dark eyes bored into me, making my skin crawl. That was the moment I realized I might not be able to handle this guy much longer. One night, a group of us from the circle gathered at a bar. There were 5 of us, each with a family business waiting to be inherited. Among us, Eric Bryant had the most clout. He'd been my childhood friend for years, and I leaned on his influence quite a bit. At the party, we ended up playing an old-school game of truth or dare. A few of us decided to mess with my childhood crush, the straight golden boy of our school, Andrew Rivera. Before the night, Eric had told me he was getting bored and wanted to dump his latest project. But when Andrew showed up, I could feel the tension shift. Andrew arrived in a crisp white shirt and neatly pressed trousers that showed off his tall, lean frame. Sitting next to Eric, he was polite and reserved, like a young bamboo swaying in the wind. Meanwhile, I glanced at the clingy, soft guy next to me, the one I'd been entertaining lately, and couldn't help but think Eric had a point about our low standards. The dice rolled on, and Andrew kept losing. Each time, he had to drink, his cheeks turning a deep shade of red. His misty, glistening eyes gave off a soft, irresistible glow, making him look even more charming. The look towards Eric was full of help in his eyes. But Eric just sat there lazily, watching coldly. I couldn't help but spit at him in my heart. This trick and this routine mostly involve getting people hooked and knowing they can't leave. Just kidding. Hey, stop making things difficult for me. Eric, the beauty is in trouble, it's your turn to be the hero. I couldn't help but come to the rescue. Several brothers looked at me with indescribable expressions on their faces. As agreed, we were going to make things difficult for Andrew. See what the new beauty can do for Eric. My sudden intervention cooled down the heated atmosphere. Andrew is really charming. It's rare that Nathan saves you. The second one who was speaking gave the 3 of us a playful look. I secretly cursed them for being such a troublesome thing. I quickly glanced at Eric, who was still sitting there indifferently. I could only laugh dryly. The people Eric personally brings with him are all our sisters-in-law after all. Right, Eric? My childhood friend didn't look angry. He slowly pushed the wine in front of Andrew towards me. Then Nathan, help your sister-in-law drink this glass of wine. Eric glanced at me with a half-smile. Eric knew that I was intolerant to alcohol, but I knew his possessive nature. Maybe he was unhappy because he saw that I had thoughts about him. After all, it's my fault. Okay, I'll drink it for Eric. I glanced at the pitiful Andrew across from me, picked up the glass and drank it all. Just consider it as an apology. After a few rounds of games, I helped Andrew drink a few more glasses at Eric's instruction. Andrew looked over at me several times, but I was a little tipsy, and the light in the bar wasn't very clear. I always feel that there is gratitude in Andrew's eyes. This round, Andrew lost again. This time I can't handle it anymore. I can't drink much, and Andrew was in a bad luck situation. I was about to beg for mercy when the brother next to me became unhappy. We agreed to play truth or dare. What's the point of always asking others to drink for you? The little zero leaning on me also said in a discontented voice. Yeah, if you don't want to drink, then tell me the truth. Tell me what it feels like to be with our brother Eric. What's the difference between men and women? A few little zeros laughed. Andrew bit his lower lip and said nothing, his eyes fixed only on Eric. I heard from Eric that Andrew used to be a bit of a tempered guy. He was a main player in the school basketball team, so it was not easy to catch him. The fact that he sat there the entire time for Eric and didn't turn the table over and leave shows how capable my childhood friend is. But Eric didn't mean to reprimand him. Instead, he said nonchalantly, "Andrew, tell me. I want to listen too. It's really a scumbag." I felt Andrew's back stiffen, and he looked a little pitiful. After all, he is a fresh and handsome guy, not one of those zeros in the circle who can joke about their size at will. "Hey, who said truth or dare? Andrew, why don't you choose the big dare?" I pushed the game box prepared by the bar on the table to him. "The atmosphere is set here. Choose one of the two." Andrew had no choice but to pull out one. "Choose any person on the right side and keep lips in contact for 3 minutes. To his right sat Eric and me. Eric, who was standing next to me, smiled sarcastically, put down his cup, leaned back and stretched out his arms. It seems to be saying, "Come on, this is what you have been looking forward to." Amid the booing, he looked like he really deserved a beating. Andrew was obviously still mad at him. "Nathan, right? I choose you." I saw Andrew walking towards me angrily. My chaotic mind is about to explode. "Do you want brothers or beauties?" But that question fell apart the moment Andrew touched my lips. Under the dim light, the booth was silent for a moment. There was only the sound of water and two heads swaying in the light and shadow. It was as if the touch was just a formality, but suddenly it ignited a passion. I tilted my head back slightly and my Adam's apple rolled for a moment. Breaths exchanged, a strange smell invaded the territory. My dazed look was reflected in his clear eyes. My consciousness is a little fuzzy. The sweet taste of sugarcane is indeed incomparable to soft fruit. I half closed my eyes and a button of my shirt was torn off at my neck and shoulders. This made me make a sound unconsciously. The sounds of the surrounding environment began to fall into place. The wine bottles and glasses on the table were knocked over. "Ahem, Nathan, you two are out of time." The third brother coughed awkwardly. "It's over." "Nathan Morris, what are you doing?" Eric pulled the corner of his lips, looked at us and said sinisterly. His face looked extremely ugly. "Eric is a bit paranoid. I won't be let off easily this time. Eric has had a problem since he was a child. He doesn't let others touch his things because if they do, they will be destroyed. He thinks it's dirty, but he would definitely snatch what he liked from others. When he was young, he was the bully among that group of boys and no one disobeyed him. At that time, my family was in decline and I was ordered to curry favor with the Yu family. Because of his habit, my parents grew my hair long so that they could send me to their house as a study companion. Later, my family became prosperous again because of the good performance I performed under Eric. I also stayed in Eric's 5-member group and was ranked 4th. The eldest is Eric, the second is capable, and the third is smart. Besides me, there was another youngest one who was a few years younger than me, and they were all from prominent families. I feel like as I get older, I'm becoming more courageous. At the end of the day, Andrew was rudely taken into the car by Eric. I couldn't help but stuff a tissue with contact information written on it into Andrew's hand. But I never received any information about adding people, and I thought it was hopeless. It wasn't until a few days later in the morning that the phone's notification ring started again. I'm typing anxiously here. "Andrew, did he give you any trouble that day?" It took me a long time to reply that day. No. I was a little anxious, so I drove my sports car straight to Eric's swimming pool. I learned from the familiar front desk that Eric was here as usual today. I changed into a bathrobe and went to the bathroom, thinking about how to talk when we met later. Eric's behavior got annoying after a few days. I have to ease the relationship and wait until the two of them break up before taking any action. Haha, youngest brother, your eyes went wide open at that time. I didn't expect that she is so stunning. Are you still brothers? How dare you say such a thing? I didn't do it because I was your brother. Stop talking or Eric will hear you and get scolded. Amid the sound of water dripping in the bathroom, I heard the voices of a few brothers in the bar that day. I turned off the water and came out wrapped in a towel. What about Eric? Where is he? Several people in the public shower room were so frightened that they froze. Maybe he didn't notice there was someone in the cubicle. Nathan. The youngest one shivered and almost fell down. Don't worry, Nathan, Eric is in the swimming pool. The third brother glared at the youngest. I nodded, and before going out, I gave the quail-like youngest one a kick with my bare feet, ignoring the sound of him slipping behind him. My little chick, you haven't grown wings yet. At that time, I thought that these scumbags were arguing about Andrew. I was angry, so I got a little mad. Who knew later? By the swimming pool, Andrew was standing under the scorching sun, holding some fruit, sweating profusely. Eric was wearing sunglasses and lying on a lounge chair under a parasol. Obviously, Andrew was fined. What a shame. I untied my bathrobe, dived into the water, and swam to the other side. The water splashed all over the two of them. What are you two doing on the shore? Come down and swim a few laps. Eric looked at me scrutinizingly, as if judging me from his high position. No matter how cruel he is, I have been with him for more than 10 years. Not really. Wow. I took him into the water and took him for a swim. I gasped and leaned close to his ear and asked, You're still brothers, you're mad at your brother for a game. Can't you afford to play? Eric leaned against the edge of the pool and looked at me carefully. We were close to each other, and he put his hands around my waist. The hands in the water were caught behind the back. My wet long hair was pulled and my scalp hurt. He released his hand and slid it across my tailbone like a knife. Well, I've taught you since you were little. Nathan, you know my bottom line. Andrew is nothing, but there is a price to pay for not following the rules. The sinister warning gave me a chill. My heart was pounding. Eric is a madman playing games in the world. Those rules are the bottom line shackles that he set for himself. I know Eric decided to let me go after weighing the pros and cons. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the novelty of him wears off, I can still pursue Andrew. I smiled and said, Eric, as long as you want it, it will always be yours. I've been your brother for so many years. How could I not know? Eric's expression was intriguing. As long as you still remember it. 7. After this, I acted completely honest. Compared with Eric, I was still very sober. But I didn't expect that Andrew would take the initiative to contact me later. Nathan, can you come and keep me company? The message stayed on my phone interface for a minute. After that incident, we never met again. Eric and I played as usual, but Andrew never came along once. We haven't broken up for 3 months, and I can't help it anymore. I secretly changed to a small account that had no friends and added him. Occasionally say hello to his circle of friends. He knew it was me, but we rarely spoke. I feel somewhat guilty for betraying my childhood friend. But men are. Many things cannot be controlled. It can't be hidden. Somehow, I went to the apartment that Eric gave to Andrew. When I saw him, he looked haggard. How to say it? He was like every ex who had ever feared being dumped by Eric. It's not that good looking, but he looks particularly pitiful in my eyes. He curled up his body, and his bent waist was shaking constantly. I couldn't help but hug him and gently touch the hair on the side of his ear with my lip. Andrew dodged in fear. In my haste, I knocked over the vase on the coffee table, and the water spilled all over me. He was frightened again and looked at me helplessly. The eyes are still red. I had no choice but to comfort him. It's okay, I scared you. The two of us cleaned up the ground in a hurry. Only my shirt was thoroughly wet. I borrowed his bathroom and took a shower. I am actually very familiar with this apartment. It was designed and decorated by the second brother. Andrew is going to find me a set of his clothes. But I thought about Eric. I wouldn't be able to explain if he found out. So I went to the bathroom shirtless, wrapped in a towel, and blow-dried my clothes. Andrew helped me silently. The tips of his ears were red, and he was somewhat uncomfortable with our close proximity. I deliberately didn't break the atmosphere and stayed very close to him. My figure is somewhat attractive. It is not an exaggeration to say that I am the best among the one. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, and thin muscles, it looks good at first glance. Slightly tighten your abdomen, and the 8 abdominal muscles will be clearly visible. The white skin color is a little flawed, but my aesthetic taste is influenced by Eric, and I am not pursuing black bears. I asked him indirectly about the recent situation of him and my childhood friend. How are you and Eric doing lately? He has a new girlfriend, and he often leaves early and comes back late. He smiles bitterly. I feel like I'm about to be abandoned, but I hate myself right now. I may never be able to go back to my previous life. He sighed softly. This is the scumbag Eric is. I comforted him for a long time and looked at him tenderly. When looking at each other, their eyes meet and they exchange glances at each other. He lowered his head and his eyelashes trembled slightly. It's so beautiful. As we left, he helped me put on my shirt. He hugged me from behind before he opened the door. But suddenly, the sound of the elevator arriving at the floor was heard. There is one household per floor, so it is obvious who is coming. Here. Andrew pointed hastily to the nearest bedroom. The adrenaline rush made me hide in without any hesitation. Fortunately, I didn't bring anything with me and my shoes were just put on. I heard Andrew's voice was a little reserved. You're back so early. They approached the room where I was. Has anyone come to the house yet? Yes. Andrew said, the student union is handing over. The junior girl came to get the information. I heard Eric laugh. Your junior schoolmate has good taste and the men's perfume she uses is very special. I felt uneasy. Scorpio rose. This custom fragrance is rarely used. I'm used to it and usually don't notice the scent. Apparently, Andrew is not familiar with perfume. Girls nowadays all have unique tastes. It didn't take Eric long to open the room. The bedroom is designed to be minimalist. The only empty space that could accommodate a person was a wardrobe that stretched from floor to ceiling. The doors have no handles. The whole surface looks snow white like a wall, and I just curled up and hid inside. Why can't you let go today, huh? Hear the rustling of clothes. Brother, it's still early today. The voices of rejection gradually faded away. I think my heart rate could go up to 180 miles per hour. There was only one board between me and Andrew outside. I just lean on it. I can't describe how I felt during the course of these few hours. It completely overturned my definition of excitement over the past 20 years. During the long wait, my consciousness began to become confused. There was a sound of dripping water in the bathroom. In the darkness, it seemed that Andrew opened the cabinet door. Let in some light. I was so close to his breathing. The toilet door opened. Eric, backlit, is holding something in his hand. Is your schoolgirl taking a shower in the bathroom? That seems to be a strand of my long hair. Why was this hair found? I've clearly cleaned the countertop. Nathan. I opened my eyes with sweat all over my forehead. Andrew just looked at me with his hands on the cabinet door and an apologetic look on his face. I rubbed my eyes. No wonder I was dreaming. It turned out that the light came in because the door was open. Eric's gone. Sorry to have kept you here so long. I suppressed my still frightened heartbeat. Did I fall asleep? Andrew, who was nearby, smiled gently. Yeah, I called you for a long time just now. Did you have a nightmare? I said Ignoring the numbness all over my body, I came out of the closet. It was already completely dark outside the window. The second half of today was a bit awful. It was a bit awkward, so I said goodbye to Andrew. But Andrew stopped me. It's already night. I made some supper. You've been hungry all day. Rest here tonight. He said, Eric will not come back. Usually when he comes, he disappears for a long time. His eyes looked lonely. For some reason I agreed. After dinner, I felt a little sleepy. We held hands and lay in the same bed. Didn't cross the bottom line. Because of that dream, I was too tired and fell asleep quickly. The night is very quiet. There was a rustling sound in my ears. When I woke up vaguely in the darkness, I saw a figure above me. My mouth was kissed so hard it hurt. Andrew. The man paused but did not stop. There seemed to be no restraint. I couldn't help but cry out in pain. He clasped his hands on his shoulders and slowly applied force. I didn't expect him to be such a little wildcat. My goodness, this isn't the right way to do it. I wasn't angry. I held his head and took the initiative. The next morning, Andrew woke me up with the smell of breakfast. Looking at him wearing an apron, he has a gentle and elegant appearance. I secretly kissed his cheek. I fantasized that after we become a couple, we will also live a simple yet romantic life like this. At the dinner table, he blushed shyly. I couldn't take my eyes off it. My goodness, why were you so bold last night, but now you're shy? He looked confused for a moment, then suddenly reacted. It was dark last night. Did I kiss you for a long time? I smiled wickedly. Very enthusiastic. Under the table, I didn't see that his hands and his legs were clenched tighter and tighter. 11. In this way, my relationship with Andrew remained close without crossing the line. I waited for him to break up with Eric. Occasionally, when Eric is on a business trip, I would secretly take him out for a trip. Take some intimate photos between the two of you while traveling. But the days passed. What I waited for was not the news of his breakup. It was a text message from him asking for help. Nathan, save me. Eric has found out about us. I felt very uneasy when I saw the text. I tried desperately to call back, but couldn't get through. I called Eric again and he hung up on me. I searched around for a few days like this. I went to his school but didn't find Andrew. He disappeared. He is obviously a prominent figure on campus, the student council president. Disappeared silently. Just a few days. Until I found him as a roommate. He dropped out of school. I heard that he offended a powerful person. But it wasn't good news. If you hear from him again, please let me know. I wrote a line of numbers in his book. If you have any news about him, I'll give you 1 million. The roommate gave me a strange look. You're his mistress who ruined him? You've ruined him. That's what he said. He's a popular guy in school. He went through college normally, got married and had kids. What else does he want? You may not know that his father is ill and takes medicine. He worked hard to pay for his tuition and went to a good university. He was expelled from school and has nothing left. And I heard that the person who took revenge on him is not going to stop. 1 million. If you have it, you should help him solve his problem. The page was torn off and thrown at me. Why is it changing so fast? Could it be that the photos we took were discovered? I left feeling guilty and dejected, falling into anxious torment. Like a trapped mouse, the time of its execution depends only on the mood of Eric the cat. Until Eric posted the news of organizing a group in the group of 5 of us. It's still the same bar as before. Sitting in a familiar booth. The brothers were still having fun, but Eric and I were the only ones without any companions. Nathan, what's wrong? You don't look good. I smiled at the youngest one and looked over at Eric, who was in the center. His eyes turned to me as well. The stolen items were recovered and the little mouse was worried that the owner would destroy them. Is that right? The youngest laughed so hard he fell over. What a cute little mouse with such a loving heart. Of course, things that have been stolen and soiled should be destroyed. Why should we continue to use them? Eric raised his eyebrows. It depends on what the little mouse does. The third brother joked, Eric, what do you want that requires you to be so frugal? The rats and the stolen items should be destroyed. Listening to their conversation, I felt something was not right. I interrupted them and laughed along. Why are you always talking about rats? Eric, why didn't you bring your companion Andrew with you last time? Although we both knew the truth, we still didn't fall out. Can't afford to tear it. He hooked his finger at me and I sat next to him. You like him so much? My throat tightened and I whispered. Brother, please let him go. It's all my fault. I was the one who wanted to like him. He stroked the back of my neck gently. The expression is neither happy nor angry. Let him go, okay? I felt hope in an instant and I opened my eyes wide and looked at him pleadingly. He must have understood. His eyes were shining and my eager look was reflected in his eyes. I pinned my hopes on our years of brotherhood. He once said he treated me as his younger brother. But the next second I felt like I was falling into an icy cave. Actually, there's nothing interesting about a straight guy like Andrew who turns gay the moment he's bent. Don't you think it's more exciting to play a one? He said, Got you, little mouse. After the show, I still ran away in embarrassment. Eric's last sentence brought back my childhood memories. My parents sent me to the U family when I was 7 years old. Just like many families who try to get an advantage in the family business by sending their children to be playmates of the prince, Eric, who is a few years older, is a naughty game enthusiast. He has a lot of energy every day. In shooting games, he would use small animals as targets without mercy. When playing with cars, he would crash into other children's cars without fear. And if he wants to play hide and seek, he wants all the children to play with him. If you get caught, you will face his harsh punishment. Hiding in a dark corner, I didn't know when Eric would lift the cover and find me. I got you. This sentence is like the devil's verdict. I was often caught and my long hair would become his toy. He wanted a big doll, so all the adults assumed it was normal for me to have long hair. I once ran home crying. I cried and acted like a spoiled brat in front of my parents at that time. But the parents at that time were not moved at all and even looked stern. You can't even play hide and seek. Do you know how hard your parents worked to raise you? They drove me back. You go back and apologize to Eric. As long as you become the young master's brother, our family can return to our previous life. Can I go back to the past if I become Eric's younger brother? From then on, I just did my best. Finally, I was able to make a request to Eric. Brother, if I am the last one to be caught this time, can I get a reward? I asked him. If I win, can you always treat me as your brother? Perhaps he thought it was fun at the time, so he agreed. I closed my eyes and curled up in the dirty top attic. Wait until all children are found. In the dark night, the adults discovered that I was missing. I won. Eric really kept his promise and treated me like a younger brother. Following the rules of the game may be the only good quality of Eric. But now I broke his rules. He will definitely take revenge on me. Fortunately, I went to find the second brother. He criticized my cowardice, but he acted like my own brother. I have a better relationship with him than with Eric. He frowned, feeling very disappointed with his friend. Nathan, you're just as much of an asshole as Eric. I'm sorry. I lowered my head guiltily. Brother, so can you help me find Andrew? His hand was placed on my head. Brother will help you. Just like getting into trouble when I was a kid or making Eric angry. He always says that the second child is the same age as Eric, but a few months older than him. But under Eric's guidance, we all just called him Lao Er. Even though I have the best relationship with him, I don't call him second brother. Only when I ask him for help do I call him second brother. My second brother and I became Eric's playmate in the same year. He became Eric's right-hand man very early on, taking care of many personal and work matters, including small things like decorating for Eric. He has always been like a thoughtful tool for Eric. But I know that he has been smarter than others since he was young, otherwise it would not be him but someone else who stayed behind. 15. My phone hasn't rang. I am like a mouse trapped in a cage, waiting to be slaughtered at any time depending on the mood of Eric the cat. Until I received a call from home asking me to go back. I seldom go back to my family's villa after I grew up. This time it's the birthday of my younger sister, who is 15 years younger than me. I bought a set of dolls at the mall. I picked out a design that was the cartoon character the little girl mentioned she liked when we met last time. When I walked in, the little girl immediately rushed to me and asked me to hold her. Elder brother. I carried my chattering sister inside. My mother was in the living room directing my aunt to clean up the mess after the birthday dinner. My father was sitting on the sofa. When he saw me coming, he put down the newspaper in his hand. Are you back? I said, and put the little girl down. Brother, I already have this set of dolls. My mother came over and said lovingly, all the rooms in the house are filled with dolls. Mom and Dad's room can't even hold them. The little girl pouted. Then send away the unlovable ones. Brother, I have many good friends who play with me. I touched the little girl's playful braids and smiled. Brother, I don't know. I'll take you out to buy it next time. Most of my sister's good friends are from families whose financial conditions are somewhat different from mine. The same story is repeated at different times. People have emotions, so finding an emotional shortcut is what many inferiors try to do. You are such a loser. Why don't you ask your brother to buy you a big house to house more dolls? My mother said with a smile. I don't want a big house. I want to be with my parents forever. Then my sister took my hand and said, There is also my brother. The whole family was delighted by the little sister's childish words. It said that boys should be raised in poverty, and girls should be raised like little princesses in wealth. We don't favor boys over girls in our family. Xin has been raised with confidence, and her temperament will be different when she grows up. I interrupted the conversation between my parents. Dad, has there been any problems with our family business recently? My dad looked at me with a frown. Nothing else, but the money from the cooperation with the Yu family has not been transferred. It's really strange. The Yu family has always been very straightforward. I just put all the money on the line. I was concerned. Why haven't you called me yet? Is there something wrong? We don't have enough capital, and we can't delay this for too long. You and Eric are good brothers, and you helped Dad collect the money. This little money is nothing to him, but it's different for our family. I said, my relationship with him has been bad recently, so let's plan to make a loss on this order. This sentence made the whole living room lose temperature. How can you do that? If the relationship is not good, you can just go and beg him. If he stamps his feet, our family will be ruined. Can you bear to see our little Shinshin suffer a miserable life? I lost my patience and lost my temper. Ask for anything. Then I am no longer your son. Why was I a tutor and a servant when I was little? Do we have to live such a luxurious life? My parents looked at me like I was a monster. Nathan, are you jealous of your sister who is 15 years younger than you? How did we mistreat you when we were little? We were not well off back then, but weren't you living hundreds of times better than us in the Yu family? It's not too much to wear gold and silver, right? How has Eric treated you unfairly? On the contrary, you have become brothers with Eric, spending every day together and not going home. Do you still have us in your eyes? My mother's voice was so shrill. 16. That night I had a dream. Old Yao's family of 4 squatted on the roadside begging for food in tattered clothes. Eric was splashed with mud as a luxury car drove by. Walala, a group of bodyguards got out of the car. Eric at the back held a whip in his hand. You little stealing mouse, I caught you. I woke up in a fright, covered in sweat. The scary thing is that although dreams are absurd and dramatic, reality may be even more tragic. So I went to the bank decisively. Mr. Yao, do all financial projects need to be liquidated? In the face of the bank manager's incomprehensible questions, I answered affirmatively without hesitation. Even if the loss is huge, there is no guarantee that all my assets will become negative in the next while. It is possible that contract violations may lead to lawsuits and family bankruptcy. We have been together for many years. How could I not know his methods? A few more days passed after the monetization was completed. Everything went smoothly without any obstruction. 17. My second brother is very efficient. A few days later I received a strange phone call. I excitedly came to the remote and dilapidated urban village. Finally met Andrew, who I had been looking for many days. It's hard to describe how I felt when I saw him. Half a month ago, he was still a person as white as snow and green bamboo. Now it seems to have lost its vitality. We spent an afternoon together in a cramped room. He said, Actually, I've always been worried about you. I'm afraid he'll hurt you too. I felt a mixture of guilt and pain. Don't worry, he didn't hurt me. I am like a very cowardly and despicable person. Andrew, let's go together. Let's go abroad. I'll find a better university for you. The warmth seemed to cool suddenly. Nathan, I still have parents and family. I came to you for only one thing, besides making sure you were safe. His thin body suddenly knelt down towards me. Please, please stop Eric from taking revenge on me. I don't want to play your games anymore. It was such a clear sound, but it penetrated the eardrum and hit the soul directly. I turned pale and said, but I am also the target of his revenge. He won't listen to me. But you are still fine. He didn't take any revenge against you. But I violated his taboo. It just so happens that he's tired of me too. Andrew smiled sarcastically, his words sharp and incisive. This is all your fault. So, Nathan, you are responsible. It was my fault for being cowardly and curious, but I dare not. We can move to another place and live the same life. Bring your parents with you. My family is also very rich and can afford your tuition and your father's medical expenses. I held his shoulders, tried to pull him up, but to no avail. His eyes looked straight at me and I turned my head away. There are things in there that I dare not face. Sorry. He bit my neck. I put down a bank card. Half of my property is in there. Escaped from here and walked out of the dark and dirty alley. Over the next few days, I went to see Andrew secretly in a secluded place. He went to interviews repeatedly in the only decent attire he had, but never got hired. Even if you apply for a job at a street-side milk tea shop, there will be a group of people coming to cause trouble. Days of frustration made him stand at the door of a nightclub for a long time. I panicked and rushed out to stop him. What are you doing? Why don't you use the card I left for you? Do you know how much money is in there? I roared madly. Is he so willing to degenerate? Come to a place like this? He looked at me calmly, even a little teasingly. Don't you know this is useless? Eric's target is you. As long as I'm not miserable enough and you don't get to him, everything won't end. Why didn't he hurt you? I looked at him, my heart in agony. Finally made up my mind. Okay, Andrew. Kiss me again, please? 19. I took the initiative to contact Eric. He seemed to have anticipated everything. I don't want to be perfunctory or reluctant. Nathan, you know what I like. I understand. As a friend of more than 10 years, I know his preferences well. I went to the store and bought a one-piece robe, pure white silk with a lace drawstring. Before entering Eric's villa, I received a call from the second brother. Nathan, don't go. His voice was anxious. You may not know that Andrew's apartment has actually been equipped with secret surveillance. I decorated that house. You know I wouldn't lie to you. I chuckled. I see. Everything in the story has been explained. But it was too late. Eric, who was standing on the upstairs terrace, greeted me. You're here. I hung up the phone, looked up and smiled at him. After entering the door, I took off my windbreaker and put it on the ground at the door. Walk inside wearing your newly bought pajamas. As I walked up the stairs, I pulled out the lace drawstring. Tie it on your eyes. I swallowed. Holding on to the quaint wooden stairs, I walked up step by step. It seemed to lead to the mouth of a giant beast waiting in the darkness. Eric's extra. I really like the way Nathan bites his lower lip without making a sound when he's in pain. Her long hair spread out on the white cloth and crystal beads of sweat slid down her beautiful jawline. His eyes were moist like beautiful glass beads. His eyes have been so stubborn since he was a child. My father once told me that you must learn to control what you want. Those who don't follow the rules are just barbarians. In the end, what he wants will leave him. But the cunning young fox deliberately defeated me once. From then on, he lived in my heart, but I couldn't bear to touch him. I thought I would always treat him as my younger brother. There was never any love in the way he looked at me. Maybe when he really falls in love with someone, I will break free from all restraints and reveal the hideous true nature of my heart. It wasn't until he actually kissed Andrew in public that I realized I could no longer control my anger and jealousy. I hate that other people have the same desire to see Nathan, especially the second one, which tried to hide the pain and act normal. The second one knows everything about me, but he was too cowardly. He is capable, we are equally hypocritical, but I have more leverage than him. If it weren't for Nathan, maybe we would be true brothers. I can wait until the old games are over. A new game begins. Until that day when my second brother and I were at the company, I saw the surveillance footage of that apartment. He was like a male peacock with his tail spread out, taking off his shirt and leaning against Andrew. I set the trap, and the second brother became my accomplice. I am waiting for the little butterfly I've been thinking about to come into my arms on its own initiative and obediently, willingly and without complaints. Fortunately, I won the game in the end.